And now, here for you, this is News Views, a newscast for Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, and the world. And now, Michael Badger.
Hello and welcome to News View. I'm Michael Badger, and tonight's top story: millions of drugs have been seized and 70 have been arrested in Arizona, say officials, according to CNN U.S. News, and that's CNN.com, by Terry Frinden of CNN. Today, at least 70 suspected drug smugglers have been arrested in Arizona. They have alleged ties to the powerful Sinaloa cartel, and this is according to officials familiar with the operation. He says this drug trafficking takedown in Arizona included arrests of both Mexican and U.S. suspects, said law enforcement Monday. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which led to the 17-month investigation, said it would provide detailed information at a news conference today in Phoenix, and I'll bet they did too. And they say federal, state, and local law enforcement seized thousands of pounds of marijuana, cocaine, and heroin that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars in a series of raids. And they also seized large caches of weapons and ammunition. The drugs were smuggled from Mexico into Arizona by air and ground transportation that used a large variety of sophisticated techniques, said officials. The search continues for more suspects in this case, and authorities said all of those arrested will be prosecuted by Arizona state officials. That according to CNN. And on the East Coast, nearly 3 million people may spend days without any power, as the big power outage was caused this weekend by an early snowstorm. This according to CBS News and other news outlets. And according to CBS and the Associated Press, at least 11 deaths are blamed on the weekend's pre-winter snowstorm, which dumped up to 2 feet of heavy wet snow in parts of the Northeast. I'll stop reading there and just say I've heard reports from various sources and seen on TV trees with still many of their leaves on them have just snapped in two and fallen to the ground. The treetops are falling to the ground because so much snow and ice has fallen in the Pennsylvania, New York, West Virginia, Virginia, Massachusetts areas, and New Jersey. Now back to what CBS and AP said. They say that the snow's been a disaster for trees still covered in fall foliage, snapping limbs and downing power lines. It came early this year, so early that the trees still had leaves, and nearly 3 million homes and businesses across that region are still without power. That may be lessened by now. This story's from hours ago today, because this show has only done a few live broadcasts. But anyway, they say records were set in New York City, where 2.9 inches of snow fell in Central Park. And they say, quote, they'd never measured even an inch here on any October day in New York City since 1869. Concord, New Hampshire got 13.6 inches, breaking a 59-year-old record, while Bristol, Connecticut got 17 inches of snow, and Plainfield, Massachusetts, more than 30 inches. All this in October, at the end of October of 2011 here, over to the east of us. And in other news, Macy's, Target, and Macy's and Target are planning to open their stores' doors even earlier on Black Friday this year, as it's now called. According to Reuters, Macy's Inc. out of Minnesota is planning its earliest start ever to the holiday shopping season by opening many of its U.S. stores at midnight on Thanksgiving night. And Target announced a similar move to this last week, setting the stage for what is likely to be a competitive holiday season for U.S. store chains. And analysts and economists are expecting only modest sales gains this year anyway, though. The National Retail Federation earlier this month forecast that U.S. retail sales would rise 2.8% in November and December, excluding cars, gas, and restaurants. The fight for sales is likely to be more intense this year for chains that cater to middle-income shoppers ready to spend more, but will still be careful with their money, which is raising the stakes for a good start to the season for the discount retailer. And in yet other news, the Family Research Council has blasted the Supreme Court for allowing a decision to stand that will remove roadside crosses in 6 states. According to them, they strongly criticized the Supreme Court's decision today to let stand what they're calling one of the worst religious assaults in all of American history. This is the Supreme Court's refusal to hear Davenport versus American Atheists that will now result in the removal of 14 crosses bearing the names of fallen Utah state troopers that have been placed along roadsides in Utah and Kansas, Colorado, Oklahoma, New Mexico, and Wyoming, similar crosses. The Supreme Court's refusal to hear the case could have significant implications for national memorials and monuments across the nation, including but not limited to the crosses on headstones in Arlington Cemetery. Tony Perkins, the president of the Family Research Council, responded with the following comments. Quote, "The Supreme Court has failed to recognize that religious liberty is a fundamental right given to us by God and protected in the Constitution. I find it tragic that our freedoms are now at greater risk from our own courts than from foreign domestic enemies we've faced, concluded Perkins, unquote. And there's more, and you can find out more about that online probably if you look it up. And the next story, scientists have described a top-down approach to identifying individual protein isoforms on a proteome-wide scale. Scientists say this approach at identifying individual proteins would use more traditional techniques, would not use more traditional techniques, sorry. The four-dimensional separation system was developed by University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign lead team and is claimed to provide a 20-fold higher separation power and protome coverage than bottom-up approaches, and enabled identification of proteins up to 105 kDa in size with up to 11 transmembrane helices. Or I think that this, according to GenGNews.com, the Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology News website. In the technique as reported in Nature, Neil L. Keller, PhD, and colleagues all claim that top-down analysis will allow scientists to more accurately correlate proteomics data with phenotype for both basic biology and disease research. Quote, "We are dramatically changing the strategy for understanding protein molecules at the most basic level," unquote. And Dr. Keller states, quote, "We weigh proteins precisely and identify them directly. This way, the way everyone else is doing it is by digesting the proteins, cutting them up into smaller bits and putting them back together again. I call it the Humpty Dumpty problem," unquote. The investigators described their technique and the results of whole protome analysis in a paper titled "Mapping Protein Isoforms and Discovery Using Top-Down Proteomics." And you can see more of that on the GenEGnews.com website. And I'm Michael Badger. You can email NewsView at newsview@email.com. I'm Michael Badger. I think we'll take a break. This is NewsView. Continue watching for more after this break.
Lee Whitaker saw a program on electrical safety at his high school and learned about surviving car accidents involving power lines. A few nights later, he was riding in a car with his friends.
Coming up over the hill, we started fishtailing real bad, hit the pole, and snapped it in half, and we rolled onto our side. And I made sure everybody else was okay and made sure I was okay, and told him not to get out. That was the main thing that he repeated several times, was not to get out of the vehicle if you're in an accident involving power lines.
Ashley Taylor was among those in the car.
It happened so quick after we learned all about it, and that we actually got to use that information to save each other's lives. And oh yeah, really lucky.
They want you to learn from their experience and share it with those you love. See their story at safeelectricity.org.
Welcome back to Newsview. And in news right now, health news, according to UPI.com, independent reading doesn't help achievement, according to research done in Boulder, Colorado today. They say children age 11 at the end of elementary school, their education and grades did not go up as a result of independent reading. Nicole Harvar of the University of Colorado Boulder, who led the study when she was with Ohio State University and colleagues at Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University, Case Western Reserve University, and the University of Illinois at Champaign-Urbana, all said that educators have long emphasized the importance of independent reading for fun or leisure. It was believed getting kids to read more on their own would lead to improved reading scores, Harvar said. But the researcher team looked at reading achievement and independent reading in 436 pairs of identical and same-sex, non-identical twins at age 10 and again a year later at 11. What they found was that reading achievement was assessed using standard measures of word recognition and reading comprehension, while independent reading was assessed by asking each twin questions about his or her motivation to read. Parents estimated how often the children read for pleasure. But the findings were that children's reading achievement at age 10 predicted their independent reading at 11, regardless of how much independent reading they were doing at age 10. This suggesting that reading achievement influenced later independent reading. However, the reverse was not true. After accounting for reading achievement at age 10, independent reading at 10 didn't predict reading achievement at 11 after all. So that's from UPI, United Press International. And I know I read it wrong, sorry. But we'll move on to CenterDaily.com. Out of Urbana, Illinois, they say Penn State's Caitlin Lane became the third Nittany Lion to win the individual title at the Big Ten Women's Cross Country Championship on Sunday. Lane completed the 6-kilometer course at Illinois' Arboretum in 19 minutes, 58 seconds, 14 seconds ahead of second place Caitlin Comfort of Wisconsin. Lane joins Kim McGreevy in 1996 and Bridget Frank in 2009 as Penn State Conference champions. Others are Emily Gennady, Natalie Bauer, Brookline Ritter, Abby Benson, Lindsay Graybill, and Katie Rodden and Rebecca Simcoe. And on the men's side, Kyle Dawson and Vince McNally finished 12th and 13th, respectively. To lead Penn State, Dawson completed the 8-kilometer course in 23 minutes and 58 seconds, which is 10 seconds ahead of McNally, as the Nittany Lions were 6th with 165 points. And you can see more of that at centerdaily.com or something like. And in other news, an Illinois research team, according to the cattlenetwork.com, Drover's Cattle Network, they're going to enhance ag production in dry areas, or they hope to. A research team from the University of Illinois is working with scientists in Lebanon to develop a water allocation model that will enable Lebanese communities to enhance their agricultural production using less water with a system that is environmentally sustainable. They say, quote, one of the challenges is the limited data availability, unquote, quote, said Monica. The project partners we talked to are hesitant to rely too heavily on historical data because of the concerns of accuracy. So they're interested in taking new measures that are more viable. As the project continues, we'll be helping out with that as well. Based on information they acquired, the team was able to outline preliminary scope of research work in Lebanon through the WLI, and they have plans to return to the area for more field work during December 2011 through January 2012 and May through August of 2012. And in what I thought was a shocking move that I first saw in World Magazine, but here's a story that goes back to July 1st, 2011, that says Burger King. Now this here is Observer Dallas, DallasObserver.com. On one of the blogs, they say that Burger King has started in some markets selling beer. That's right. Burger King is selling beer in some markets. And according to USA Today, the drive-in chain Sonic is planning a late summer upgrade, which would have already happened, with 25 kinds of bottled beer and a bunch of wine. Yes, beer and wine at a drive-in. They say, though, that the drive-in, which is different from a regular Sonic drive-in, has one in Florida that features a beach area, or a beach-like area with tables. Now, you can't drink in your car, but if you leave your car and go to the beach area, which is basically tables on sand, and they say the Sonic sign is not the regular Sonic logo, but has a beach ball in the O, the letter O. So Burger King and Sonic are getting into the liquor sales industry. And if you have any questions, comments, or complaints, or tips, send them to me at newsview@email.com if you can, or if you want to. You can also leave a comment in the comment section on YouTube. I'm Michael Badger. Stay tuned for the weather and the rest of this News View, and don't forget to tune in if you can Friday nights as well as Monday nights here on UPTV 699, Urbana, Illinois, and Central Illinois, parts of Central Illinois. I'm Michael Badger. Have a good night.
Movement. Along with weight loss, it's one of the many ways to fight osteoarthritis pain.
I always pay more than the minimum balance on my credit card.
I just opened an education IRA for my kids.
I never invest more money than I can lose.
How are you saving for your future? Find out more great ways to save for your future and choose to save.
And here's your News View weather forecast for Central Illinois. Tonight, you can expect a low temperature of 32 degrees Fahrenheit, that's freezing, with clear skies, which means it will be very cold, probably. On Tuesday, sunny skies with a high of 66 degrees Fahrenheit. Tuesday night, mostly clear skies with a 42-degree low. Wednesday, mostly sunny and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And Wednesday night, a probability of precipitation at 50%. So we have a 50% chance of rain, that means, and a low temperature of 45 degrees Fahrenheit. This has been Michael Badger with your News View weather forecast from News View.